Our next game takes us to the Midwest, to Iowa City, Iowa, where the Iowa State Cyclones go on the road, not far from home, to take on the number 21 Iowa Hawkeyes. It's a 3:30 kickoff on CBS/Paramount Plus. Iowa currently favored by only 2.5 points on this one. Played in Kinnick Stadium. We know the electric atmosphere of this game. I'm excited for this game. It's one of the best venues in all of college football. The third quarter wave to the Children's Hospital is by far the best tradition in all of college football, in my opinion. Might be a little bit biased. Nonetheless, great matchup between these two teams. Matt Campbell on one side coaching versus Kurt, and I forget his last name, but you know him very well. He'll be back on the field after a one-game suspension. He served the last game. And Brad, I got to be honest with you right out of the gates. I'm really glad that I don't have to watch this game on CBS because we know who's calling it, Gary Danielson. So that's my take on the preview so far on the game. But Brad, I'll turn over to you. Thoughts on these two teams and who comes out on top in the in-state Iowa rivalry?
Well, guys, my first thought on this game is both these teams are going to treat the end zone as no man's land. That they're just going to stay away from it. Because I mean, we're talking about two teams that historically just don't find the end zone. And I will say, Iowa, I didn't watch them a whole lot last Saturday, but it does seem they are breaking a new offensive coordinator in Tim Lester. It does seem that they're improved. They're a little bit more up to modernization of offense. So I think you saw some improvements. Look, this one, guys, simply comes down to me is I don't think either offense is great. I think they'll both make a handful of plays, but it's going to be a very, very low-scoring game to me. To me, guys, it simply comes down to defense. Nate, you said it, man. Kinnick Stadium is going to be rocking. It's going to be a good atmosphere. And I will say, as bad as Iowa has been on offense for several years now, their defense is always good. And it's the reason that they're always in contention in the Big Ten. They've got one of the best linebackers in the country in Jay Higgins. And then this guy really impressed me last week. Their defensive lineman, Aaron Graves, had 3 sacks last week. And I know they were playing an FCS opponent, but still, that's very, very impressive. So I'm keeping this one short and sweet, and then I'm going to turn over to you guys. I'm taking the Iowa Hawkeyes. The 2.5, I mean, I think Iowa's going to win by a little bit more than 2.5. I think it's going to be a single-digit game, but you may only see 1 or 2 touchdowns scored combined in this game. I think the field goal kickers are going to be busy. It's going to be turnovers and field position, but give me the Hawkeyes in this one.
Wow, Brad, great pick. Rooster, I'll turn it over to you. And I want to ask both of you, but Rooster, you can answer first. What's the over-under on this game? Is it a low-score game, or are we going to see 2 high-flying offenses in a game that we thought was going to be completely different?
Well, Nate, you see that Iowa minus 2.5 right there on the screen?
Yeah.
I originally thought that was the over-under for this game until you had to clarify it was the spread. I think the current spread's 36. Wipe off that 6 at 3.5, and I'd still take the under on it because this game is going to be an absolute snail's pace.
36 is too high, way too high.
We are going to see a battle in the trenches here. If you didn't know any better with Iowa scoring 40 points last week, you would have thought they actually knew what a playbook was. But Iowa State back there, they've got Rocco Beck. He's a solid quarterback, but they just don't have the defense that I think Iowa has in this game. But surprisingly, Iowa has been picking up 4-star offensive players, if you believe that or not. I can't believe it.
It's true.
But they got a 4-star receiver commit. That is something I thought I would never see. But they get the job done in this game, and they win by a score of 7-3 to cover the spread.
Wow, great picks from both of you. And, yeah, I mean, this is such an intriguing matchup to me because when you talk about two teams, you mostly think of defense. But after what we saw last week, we saw 2 offenses that looked pretty dang good. And, again, it's week 1. It's against lower competition. I get it. I really do. In the next game we'll talk about, it'll be the same situation. But when it comes down to these two teams, talk about Rocco, you talk about Cade McNamara. Look, Cade McNamara was a really good quarterback at Michigan. he was overlooked because of what J.J. McCarthy ended up doing for that Michigan program. And that's nothing to take away from J.J. because he was electric for the Michigan Wolverines. And by electric, I mean he was a really good game manager. But nonetheless, I think both of these teams are actually going to surprise us this week. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. It's early in Iowa. The winds are not going to be as strong. It's not going to be as cold. It's probably going to be in the mid-80s when we look at temperature-wise. This is going to be a high-scoring game, in my opinion. But I think in the end, to your point, Brad, I think Iowa makes one or two more stops than Iowa State does. And I'm curious to see how this Iowa State team looks in 2024 under Matt Campbell. Matt Campbell was under a lot of heat last year. He got into a fight with his fan, and now we're going to get to see him on the road in Iowa City versus Iowa. Give me the Hawkeyes in a close one, but I think it's a very high-scoring game. I think Iowa makes one more stop than the Iowa State Cyclones.
Nate, by high scoring, do you mean 17-14?
Yeah, it could be. We never know. I'm just reporting what I'm hearing. Sources, boots on the ground. I'm gonna go 35-24. I think it's gonna be a higher shot. 35-24. That's my final prediction. Y'all are going much lower, 7-3, Brad. I'm sure it's around that range as well. Maybe 14-10. I'm gonna go 35.
I'm going 14-10 exactly.
14-10. I'm gonna go 35-24. Let us know down in the comments what you think the score of this in-state Iowa State versus Iowa game will be.